जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदनंदन व्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस जगच्चार्य स्तोत्र सच्चिदानंद भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। श्री भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। रामाचार्य श्रीदास ठाकुर की जय। साई गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि बोल। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
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 ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय.
So we were discussing Bhagavad Gita chapter 5. What is the connection between chapter 4 and 5?
It was a connection. Sannyas Yoga. Like, in fourth chapter, in the ending, Krishna says, after mentioning all the transcendental knowledge and everything, he suddenly says, now stand up and start fighting. Then fifth chapter goes like, why you have to, like Krishna says, fight, why have to fight, like what is it?
See, when
Jnana is there.
Jnana is more important. Jnana karma. So now Jnana we are pursuing by taking sannyas and engaging in spiritual knowledge. Then why fight should happen? It is not Jnana.
Like Sankhya and Yoga. Some
So,
may think Samkhya and Yoga are different, but
yes.
how it is unified.
Yes.
And how
So small children think that these two are different
like
paths.
beginners in spiritual paths,
Yes.
they may think like, oh, this is Samkhya, this is Yoga. It's
Correct. Yes.
But now both are same. If you are like advanced in the knowledge in this process, then you understand that these both are together.
Yeah, they have to work together. They have to act because soul cannot live without acting. We have to perform some actions in society.
Yeah.
And just actions also are not enough because for senses to be under control and for other things, knowledge is required. So knowledge also has to go hand in hand. Now, okay, we learn to act under Krishna consciousness. We learn to develop knowledge, and that way our heart gets cleansed, and we also know practically what to do. Still, the mind is not under control. That is the problem. Here, what it is mentioned. Kama krodha vimuktanam yatinam yatachetasam abhito brahma nirvanam vartate viditatmanam. Means those who are free from anger and from material desires, who are self-realized, self-disciplined and constantly endeavoring for perfection are assured of liberation into Supreme. Now this is a very high standard. You have to be free from anger, you have to be free from material desires, be self-realized. It's too difficult to achieve that level. So how to achieve that level? In the next shloka Krishna gives that shutting out all external sense objects, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated on eyebrows. Then you have to breathe, and in this way you have to control the mind. So then comes the last shloka, which is the last shloka of 5th chapter.
Bhaktaram Vedati Sam Sarvalokam.
Aishwaram Suridam Sarvabhutanam Nyatva Mam Shanti Brishati. Now, such a person who is already controlled everything, who is in full consciousness of Krishna, he attains the Supreme. Now, here it indicates that it is not just internal knowledge. It's not just the rituals of karma. Karma rituals free us from sinful activities, and the knowledge frees us from internal condemnation. But still, there is another entity called mind, which is going to disturb us. So, for that, some physical thing is also needed. So, those physical things are the yoga processes, which Krishna indicated in just one shloka, that you just have to shut the senses and just practice breathing, and in this way you. Now, that he is going to explain in little detail here. Now, here he discriminates between a sannyasi and a yogi. Karma sannyasi means he has just given up karma. This is Shankaracharya philosophy. Idea of Shankaracharya is that a person should focus only on jnana. Okay, that is why in Vedas also there is Samhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka and Upanishad, 4 sections. Shankaracharya says only Upanishad is important. Everything else is not important.
Oh.
Because Upanishads give spiritual knowledge, Brahma Jignasa. So, because they satisfy Brahma Jignasa, only that spiritual part is important, other parts are not important, he says. Okay. So, now anyone who takes sannyas, and according to him, the only people eligible for liberation are sannyasis.
What about his Grihastha disciples?
No, they should all eventually take sannyas. And if they are women and all, they will get a male body in the next life. Even the grihasthas also, who cannot take in this life, they will take some male body in next life where they take sannyas, and only sannyasis are eligible.
That's Shankaracharya's concept.
Yes. So that is the idea. Because you have to be on the Jnana Marga, then only you will be. So anybody who is not on Jnana Marga is heavily condemned. Saying they are attached to material life still. So, so here sannyasi means he has to give up karma completely. That is karma sannyasa. That is the idea. But what Krishna is telling is that no. Instead of giving karma sannyasa, if you are anashrita, if you are not attached to the fruits, such a yogi is a higher. Because he is performing action, but he is not getting attached to the results.
Is rising.
Yes. So, yam sannyasam iti prahut, yogam tam vidhi pandava, nayas sannyasya sankalpo, yogi bhavati kaschana. You cannot just do an external renunciation, but still maintain desires in the heart. It's only when you renounce the desires from internally, then you become the actual sannyasi. Okay, initially we have to practice physical detachment. Initially, we have to refrain from the objects of the senses, and that is why we have to lead a regulated life. But as you advance, the cleanliness should happen from internal also. Then we are actually, that is why Aruruksha and Yoga Rudha. That is why in Aruruksha, everyone, they are attached to some karma. Hare Krishna. They are attached to some karma and they are performing karma. But at least they are on the path of karma yoga. They are path of karma yoga, gradually they will develop this idea that idam Vishnave idam namama, idam Krishna idam namama, idam Deva idam namama. At least na mama type of attitude will come by mouth at least. So that is why karma yoga process, yajna process is recommended. As a person advances further, then still he should continue for loka sangra, for the welfare of others, he has to continue the process. But at the same time, he has to practice detachment. Detachment means this is not mine type of thing. That is when he is actually progressing the yoga ladder. So by progressing the yoga ladder, it is not that the amount of things around you are reducing or your responsibilities in society are reducing or actions are reducing. By progressing on the yoga ladder, internally you are getting purified of all the attachments. Is externally giving up is not so much important as much as the purification that is happening internally. So that is a subtle difference that Krishna is making, and for that the control of the mind is required, because only when you have conquered the mind, he is your best friend. Otherwise, he is your enemy. So controlling that mind is required. Mm, And people who are, then he gives the benefit of all that. Those who are in that level, they consider everyone to be equal, friends, enemies, they don't discriminate. And okay, there are practical solutions. You should go to a secluded place, then you should lay a kusha grass. Basically, he's emphasizing cleanliness. You should have a clean place, you should have a kusha grass, then you should meditate, you should focus your mind, and that whole yoga process is there. It may be beneficial for some people. Okay, so it's not completely to be something which is no, it's sometimes these things are there to control the mind, because even when the mind is disturbed and all, pranayama and all will help. So there are there. So Krishna gives the practical aspects which we will not give so much into detail. Some things are relevant for us, like you should not eat too much, you should not eat too less. You should now initially we are emphasizing, okay, prasad is the ultimate. Yes, prasad is definitely the ultimate. Even as we continue also, we emphasize the same thing. But then even in prasad also there should be regulations. It's not that we are eating all through the day. There should be fixed times of eating. Traditional societies, Brahmanas would eat only once a day, afternoon, or the one time when something was eaten. Night maybe some fruits or some other things were eaten. If that standard is difficult, then 2 times a day, late morning and night after sunset, immediately after sunset. Now, even if a person eats 3 times a day, at least if the times are fixed, that is a great achievement. Eating time if it is fixed, sleeping time if it is fixed, as much as possible. And the festivals and the fasting should be observed very closely. So that way, what happens is that he is regulated in eating, sleeping, and recreation. Yukta ahara viharasya, yukta cheshtasya karmashu, yukta swapna bodhasya, yog, yoga bhavati bodha. So such a person is a practicing yogi. Okay. Now, lamp example Krishna gives, just like lamp is not disturbed by wavering of the wind. Similarly, a person who advances in yoga, he doesn't get disturbed by the flickering mind. Then, okay, now, such a person, what is the highest level? He sees Krishna everywhere. The highest perfection of yoga is the yoga Rudha stage, where he sees Krishna everywhere, and such a person is completely absorbed in Krishna. And for him, everyone is equal. There is no greater or there is no lower. However, as we already know that Arjuna has questioned that this seems too impractical for us. Why it seems impractical for us? Because controlling the wind itself is so difficult. Even if we somehow control the wind, mind is even more flickering. How can we control the mind? Krishna says, Abhyasa yenita konte vairagya. Ultimately, you have to develop attachment, detachment. So the whole process, either you are in Karma Yoga or you are in Jnana Yoga, you are performing Yajna, you are performing Yoga. Ultimately, detachment, there should be an effort for it. Detachment, how there will be an effort? Yes, we have to control the food that we take in. We have to control the recreation that we do. Then dealing with family members only as much as required. So that way, gradually, the bodily demands should reduce. Then only the mind will eventually come under control. So there is no compromise for that. Only by Abhyasa and Vairagya, it is going to be happening. That is what Krishna says. Now, Arjuna further asks that what happens if I fail in this process? I walk on this path and I fail. Then what happens? Because I did not take care to satisfy my material needs also. And now yoga also I am half and lost. Materially also zero, spiritually also zero. What will be the future? The mistake that people do when they ask this question is that they don't see Krishna is involved in the whole transaction. Whatever path we take in spirituality, God is involved at every step. And so we will never be a failure because wherever we stop, God will continue our journey from there.
The existence of God has to be approved.
Yes. Then it becomes easy to understand this point. That no prape purna kritan lokano sitva sashwati sama suchinam srimatam vihe yoga prashtopja. Such yoga prashtas are born in high class families where they practice the yoga once again from wherever they have started. Tatratam buddhi sanyogam labate paurodayakam vitate chatave bhuya samsiddho kurunandana purva bhased ten eva. Means whatever they have done in last life, they automatically they will get understanding. Oh, I have to continue from there, and in this way they continue in spiritual life. So yogi will never be a failure at any cost. Tapasvi, Diko yogi, he is better than a tapasvi, he is better than a jnani. That become a yogi. Yogi means a person who practically applies the knowledge in his life to perfect his spirituality. So still he has to perform his prescribed duties, he has to perform yajna, he has to work for the pursuit of knowledge, and all these things he has to do in a Krishna conscious way, and that way gradually there is no compromise on vairagya. Detachment should come, and with that detachment, automatically what will happen is that the mind will come under control. So that is why sixth chapter is very important because it speaks about mind control. And that mind control is also one of the factors for progress of spiritual life. Now, earlier we discussed that first to six chapters, what do they contain?
So
1 to 6 chapters. How Prabhupada has divided 1 to 6, 7 to 12, and 13 to 18.
basis, like, introduction to the
No, 1 to 6 speaks about the Jiva. 7 to 12 speaks about Ishvara. 13 to 18 speaks about Prakriti. This is the division. So now we have understood some clarity about Jiva. First of all, Jiva is Atma. And despite being Atma, still it has to do some practical activities based on Varna and Ashrama. Then Jnana Yoga should be there. Then practical application in Krishna consciousness, controlling the mind, everything has happened now. Now, with that controlled mind, what we will do? With that controlled mind, we will focus on Ishvara. That is there in the seventh chapter onwards. Now, who are the people who will go to Ishvara, who will not go to Ishvara? That is discussed in 7th chapter. 4 types of people who will never go to Krishna. Namam Dushkritino Muda, Na Prabhadyante Naradama, Maya Aparita Jnana, Asuram Bhavam Achita. Those who have this nature that they are foolish, they are lowest among mankind, and they are, what is that? Knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who are atheistic nature. They will never go to God. Dushkruti, they are bad people. Then there is Sukruti. Sukruti means good people. 4 types of good people will go to Krishna. Who are they? Chaturveda Bhajante Mam, Jana Sukritananda, Artho Jignasur, Artharthi, Jnani Chapat. Those who are desirous of wealth, those who are inquisitive, then Artho Arthati, those who are depressed, and then those who are Jnani. So these 4 types of people, they go to Krishna. So this Jivatma itself, Krishna before that gives some explanation like there are 8 elements. Bhumi, Rapo, Nalo, Vayu, Khammano, Bhutirevacha, Ahankaramiti, Vinna Prakriti Rashtra. These are 8 elements of Prakriti, but the Jiva Bhuta is separate from this. Jiva Bhuta Mahabhavo, Yedam Dharate. It controls all these elements. The Atma controls the material nature. And who controls the Atma? Matta Parataram Nanyat Kinchit Asis Dhananja, Mai Sarvam Idam Protam, Sutre Maniganam. Prakriti and Jivatma, everyone is being held properly because of Paramatma. Because of Supreme Lord, his thread is holding all these beads in the right place. And then Krishna explains how he is there in water, he is there in smell, and he is there in light, and in every living entity he is the living force. Bijam mam sarvabhutanam vidhi partha sanatanam. Buddhir buddhimatam tejas tejasvinamaham. I am the intelligence of intelligent. Then I am the strong. I am the strength of the strong. So practically, in everything there should be present. There is presence of Krishna. So there is opportunities to Krishna everywhere. But those who are atheistic, they will not see. Those who are theistic, those who are Sukruti, they will automatically see the presence of this Krishna. Now, among these, Tesham Jnani Nityokta Eka Bhaktir Vishesh. Among the Jnanis, there is one devotee who is very special, who is actually great. Uddaret Atmanatmanam Bahunam Janmanante Jnanavan Mam Praptate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sama Atma Sugatiba. Such a great soul is very rare. Who has that faith that among the Jnanis that Vasudeva is everything and I have to render service unto him. Okay. So Antavattu Phalam Tesham Tatbhavat Talpemesham Devan Deva Yajanti. Now there is another class of people. One class of people who have complete focus. Okay. Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samatma. But others, they are still a material desires. What they do, they take shelter of demigods. So those who take shelter of demigods, they go to demigods. Those who take shelter of Krishna, go to Krishna. So Krishna is making clear discrimination between those who worship demigods and those who worship the Supreme Lord. So ultimately, if we worship the Supreme Lord, then only we'll get the ultimate destination. Ultimate destination is not possible without the shelter of Supreme Lord by taking shelter of demigods. Okay. So Nam Prakash Sarvatra Yoga Maya Samashita Mudoyam Nabhinati Lokamam Ajam Avyam. Therefore, Krishna is Ajam, he is unborn. Okay, and he is Avyam, he is not destroyable. This secret is not possible to be known by everyone. Mudas, especially those who are not interested in spirituality, they cannot know these things. So that is why those who are endeavoring for liberation, those who want spirituality, okay, then those who want to perform actions for their spiritual benefit, they should all accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of God. Then only their life will be perfect. So the whole seventh chapter is meant to establish that, okay, now you are Shiva, you have understood, you have controlled the senses, everything is okay. But with all this, you have to completely focus on Krishna. Those who focus, they are Sukritis. Those who don't focus, they are Dushkritis. So by putting completely your energy in Krishna, eventually you will understand that Krishna is everything. And then you are at the right place where you are in knowledge of spirituality. Then you have realized the absolute truth. Then you know what actions to. So with this understanding, we are in the right position. So by saying these things, Krishna eventually ends the seventh chapter. Now, but there are some terminologies at the end of seventh chapter which are still not clear. Like Krishna says spirituality. Krishna says absolute truth. Krishna says karma. Then Krishna says that at the end you will come to me. So what are these things? What is spirituality? Kim Tat Brahma, Kim Adhyatma, Kim Karma. Adibhuta is what? Adideva is what? So all this, each of these you give a definition, Arjuna says. Okay. Then how at the end of life we will actually come to. So these intricate details kindly give us. That is the question Arjuna asks. That is when Krishna explains these things. So these are the topics of 8th chapter, which we will discuss after next. Any doubts till now? 6th and 7th chapter, that may not be so much technical.
Simple.
8th also simple. 9th will also be
11, 20, 22.
like 12, but 12th chapter needs much detailed explanation. 12th,
Now we are not connected to the mainstream
15th,
surrender and do.
18th. Yeah, it will all come. Because now it is still, we were discussing about different people. Now, Ishvara Jiva relationship now we are starting. So now it will go into more Ishwar definition. When we come to Prakriti, that is when this surrender becomes even more important. 13 onwards. So a little bit we'll connect in Bhakti Yoga and ninth chapter Raja Vidya. And then the whole last 6 chapters will completely focus on.